So welcome to the Academy of Esoteric and Spiritual Studies here at the Center for Creative Living. There are going to be 3 more classes after this. Dottie will be doing auras, how to see, read, and interpret on August 19th. Dottie will also be doing astral travel on September 2nd, but she'll actually be here in person. And Tamara Bell will be teaching astrology on September 16th.
Tamara Bell.
Tamara Bell? And without further ado.
And that's gonna be it for this period of time, and then we'll be moving over to the Ability to Break Center and doing something different.
Yeah.
But the classes will resume. Okay.
So my name is Michael Imler, for those who may not know me, and our topic tonight is meditation. So what I'd like to do before we begin is I want to throw it out to people that if you have any questions that you have about meditation that you've always wanted answered, maybe I'll have an answer for you. If you have something that you're struggling with in meditation right now, what is that thing? And if there's anything that you really want to correct or modify in your current meditation, what might it be? If you are online right now, type into the chat and let Corky know what your question is. And if you have a question in the audience or have something that you want to know specifically about meditation, what would it be? And that might help me decide what direction we're going to go in tonight. Anyone have anything in particular?
Brenda says staying disciplined.
Staying disciplined.
Yes.
Okay, so.
What about those who might not be experienced in it at all?
Okay, those who aren't experienced in it at all. Okay. Anything else?
Not yet.
As far as what is considered meditation, does it need to be always something that's just like kind of clearing the mind and just sort of creating like that space, or can meditation also be something focused on things, something in your imagination?
Okay, so
Could you repeat what you said?
yeah. So what I'm going to do, let's touch on that and what April brought up, which was if you're a beginner at meditation. So we'll talk about what meditation actually is, what it's used for. I actually have a nice list of things right here that I'm going to give you because I've already written this out. Here's some of the benefits of practice. To have mechanisms by which to deal with difficult experiences in a way that doesn't make them quite as debilitating or uncomfortable as they might normally be. So what that means is when you are practicing at being quiet and still, your body gets used to being still and being quiet. And so when the body has a memory of what that's like, it presents itself in situations that are difficult in that way because it already knows what it means to go back into stillness. So I'll give you an example of why this is incredibly important. If you come from a traumatic background, there are many people that come from third world countries where there's violence, maybe there's war going on. And so people adapt to that by being in a state of stress that never calms down enough for the body's chemical messaging system to slow down and go into a rejuvenative phase. This is what the autonomic nervous system does. You have 2 basic nervous systems. It's either on, which is the sympathetic nervous system, or it's in rest and rejuvenate, which is the parasympathetic nervous system. Many people that come from environments that are very contentious, they learn to adapt coping mechanisms to stay in a sympathetic fight or flight nervous system state. And then their body never really gets the opportunity to go into the rest and rejuvenate phase. The only time they can do that is when you're at rest and sleep. But sometimes even sleep is very broken because the ego is always alert to what might be threatening in the environment. So when you practice at stilling the mind and stilling the body deliberately, not by going into sleep, but by being in an awake state and deliberately bringing stillness to the body gets to practice at doing that. Our brains are basically, they're recorders, and they record patterns. The brain adapts to its environment, creates a neurological pattern in it, and then continues to utilize that pattern. Our thought systems are like that. We're habitual about just about everything that we do. We often get up in the same way every morning. We have a certain rotation in which we make our coffee, we go and brush our teeth, we take our shower, we go for a morning walk, we drive to work, etc. We don't usually deviate from that because the brain adapts to a certain sequence in which it does that really well, and it says, hey, that's good enough. Let's just continue to do it that way. So the brain builds patterns. So what we're doing with meditation is we're deliberately building the pattern of creating stillness for ourselves. That's one of the greatest benefits of meditation, is to hold that stillness when we come into a situation where things are chaotic around us. And then we maintain our composure. And we don't just do that in the face of the emergency, but we maintain that after the emergency. Often you'll find these people that are really great in states of emergency, and when the emergency's over, they completely fall apart.
Right.
So we're doing the opposite, which is that we're maintaining that calm state through the emergency and even afterward. Okay, so practice creates a normal for ourselves where this is our everyday situation. So those triggers, whether they're people or events or traffic, whatever it is, they don't trigger us in the same way that they would have before we practiced at meditation. And those conditions from the war-torn country or the constant threat that we may have been under when we were children, those won't trigger us in the same way as well. Now, we're not going to touch
Does
on...
that cover kids that are like in an abusive home?
Yes.
Or because, okay.
Yes. Meditation, they're learning now. John Kabat-Zinn has done a lot of research and has written some really great books. There's one great book that I would recommend called Full Catastrophe Living, where he talks about putting meditation into the medical sphere and how it can be used for different conditions, whether that's a dis-ease or whether it's a stressful condition psychiatrically. Meditation, now they know that our relaxed state can stave off conditions like heart disease, like heart palpitations, can help us progress through a cancer treatment. So there's a lot of really good information out there about that, and especially in that book, if you want to do more research into that.
And that's Full Catastrophe?
Full Catastrophe Living by John Kabat-Zinn.
John Kevin's.
John Kabat-Zinn.
Oh, Cabot.
Mm-hmm. Another benefit to practice, to increase the capacity in dealing with stressful experiences so that you can actually handle them without going into a state of stress, which is basically what I was talking about, except you don't go into the stress state. The emergency happens, and there is some research that shows that a mild stress state is actually important for us to go into as a self-motivator. So we're not always wanting to sit in the parasympathetic nervous system. We actually want to engage the sympathetic nervous system, go into a mild stress state where cortisol is being released throughout the bloodstream, and it's doing things like motivating us, pushing us. It's good to move into stress and move out of stress and be able to do that deliberately. We know when we're being activated, as opposed to some external influence activating us and then we can't get out of it. So we want to pay attention to what it actually means to go into stress, or what it means to go into an environment where an emergency has taken place and we have to show up for it. And we want an actual adrenaline rush to propel us into action, but we don't want to go into a stress state that debilitates us. That's when the body takes over the mind. and the brain can't actually perform whatever duties or actions need to take place in a logical and civilized way. Instead, we go into a state of hyper emotional arousal and then can't get out of it. So we want to be able to control that, and that's what meditation gives us the ability to do. To understand your basic nature in a way that increases your presence of mind with everyday occurrences. So the way that I would describe that is, often we spend a lot of our thinking in the future and in the past. We go into fantasies about what we would like to have in the future, the goals that we want to set for ourselves, or we go back into our memories. And sometimes those memories aren't really useful memories. Sometimes they're memories of events that led us to feel bad about ourselves. I call them fear, guilt, shame, etc. So when we practice at meditation, we practice at the process of being in now. And when we're present with now, we can actually be more functional with now. I'll give you a really good example. Actually, I did something really funny today. My mind was somewhere else, and I used the Neilmed nasal spray because I have pretty bad allergies most of the time. So this is a little bottle that has a cap on it, and you use it to squirt saline up into your sinuses. And today, I went to lean over the sink to squirt the saline into my sinuses, and I unscrewed the cap and took the valve out, and then went to go stick it in my nose. And I looked down at myself. I started laughing because I was totally somewhere else.
You were multitasking.
Yeah, I was not present. I was not mindful.
Right.
So obviously I corrected the situation, but the point is that we actually spend a lot of our lives somewhere else rather than focusing on what we're actually doing at the present moment.
My guide usually goes,
Hello.
what are you doing? It's like, what?
Yeah.
You know, okay, I'll stop.
Yeah. So it's important for us to actually be present in the moment. That's what they call as mindfulness. I like to call it presence. But it means that you are the influencer of your brain rather than your brain influencing you. You are the commander of your ship, the commander of your thoughts, rather than the ship steering wildly cast about by the ocean. We're in control of that and choose to be now.
Oh,
What is that?
it's Corky.
No, it isn't.
Somebody cut in.
Are the participants
Yeah.
online muted?
Oh, he must be on a phone call or something.
Yeah,
Wait a minute. Let me-
mute him.
Wait a minute.
And you can turn off the sound on the computer by muting the computer.
Yeah, got it, okay.
Computer wasn't being mindful.
Excuse me.
Another benefit of practice is to build tolerance for others and self in spite of present experience. So tolerance, you'll appreciate that, April and I have had many discussions about tolerance. Tolerance is not just being exasperated with what's going on and saying that I won't say something. Tolerance is not just allowing someone of a different racial or cultural background be in the environment while you're still feeling nervous inside. We're talking about tolerance on a whole other level. It is true embodied acceptance of someone or some situation that would otherwise be uncomfortable. So tolerance, when we can be mindful and present with how we're feeling and how we're experiencing a situation, that's true tolerance. We're mindful of who we are, how we're showing up, what is happening in our thinking processes, whether we have cognitive biases towards something or not, and truly embodying a state of presence, being with every level of input through our sensory experience with the moment that we can possibly be with. What we hear, what we're seeing, what we're feeling in our bodies, that's true tolerance, being present totally and completely with what is going on, not being overly influenced in any particular direction with the situation, with your preconceived ideas or notions about the person or the event. Tolerance is the capacity to truly embody a state of oneness with what is going on with the situation. So meditation does that, because you have to be present to be in a solid, complete meditative state. All of you has to be there. It cannot be thinking about the future. It cannot be thinking about the past. It cannot be dwelling on belief systems or perspectives. It is just present with what is right now and at total acceptance with what is going on.
So how do you practice to get there where your mind, you're basically clearing your mind of
We're going to go there.
everything's been touching you all
We're
day?
going to go there. We're going to go there. Another benefit to the practice is to improve intuition and instinct. So what happens when you have this embodied presence is that suddenly you realize that the small s self, the thing that we think that we are, I have my name, I have my job, I have the car I drive, I like these foods, I dislike those movies, whatever it is, that small s self, you suddenly realize that you're part of something greater than yourself. And it is the part of you that's the observer that observes not only you, but observes all of you, and where you are interconnected with all of life, okay? So intuition and instinct arises out of that knowingness. Intuition would be that you have a precognition of something. You have more of a relationship with what is harmful to you and what's not harmful to you. You have more of a relationship to what your purpose is in this moment, or what your purpose is in everyday life. You suddenly become aware that you get hits on why you shouldn't be in one particular location, and rather you should deviate and go to another location. Something is calling you. You might have an intuition about something that something is saying, that they need an answer to something, and suddenly the answer arises for them in your mind. So meditation actually cultivates that kind of experience. And last on my list is there's no need for a sensory deprivated environment to meditate. Life is the meditation. So rather than thinking that you actually need to be sitting in quiet with an eye mask on, or listening to your favorite tuning out music, or that you can't have any interruptions, actually, those things are great if you can accomplish them, but the true art of meditation is in your everyday experience. And that's what presence and mindfulness are. They mean that you hold that state no matter what is happening in your everyday life. Now, I'm going to address the other question, which is what is a way to cultivate habit or a practice, but let's touch on that later. What I'd rather do is let's meditate. That's why we're here, right? So I'm going to go through a few different styles of meditation. There are different ways to approach this. The more standard and Buddhist way that scientists and people that are following Buddhism are using as ways to describe meditation. There's focused attention or concentration. There's observation or open monitoring, paying attention to what's going on around you or in you. And then there's acceptance and loving kindness, which is cultivating love within yourself during meditation. There's not one way to meditate. There are many ways, and what I'd like for you to experience tonight is a number of ways. We're going to practice a few different types to see what your experience is and whether or not you feel like that was a useful style of meditation for you. I also am going to be using a Tibetan bowl to create a sound. Now, I'm not doing this in a way that I want to create a crutch for you. What I'm using this for actually is to help us go deeper, quicker. One thing I can say is that there are certain sounds, certain musics that actually entrain the brain to go deep faster. And that's what I would like for everybody tonight. The reason why this is important, and I'm going to talk about this particular aspect of practice, I'm going to weave little things in as we go along. Meditating in the morning is the fastest way to drop into a deep state. The reason for that is that while you've been sleeping all night, your brain has been relaxing, and it's been focusing only on rejuvenation for itself. When you wake up and you meditate within a half hour, there's not been much brain processing going on, observing what is going on in the outer world. So it's twice as fast to get into a quiet state of mind than it is if you were to meditate at the end of the day, because you've had a whole day to amass all kinds of experiences that have the brain, the hemispheres of the brain oscillating faster. And it takes that much more time and effort to get those oscillations slower so that the brain will come into a more peaceful state. So keep in mind that if your objective is to go to deeper levels of brain awareness, you're going to be much more successful faster if you do this in the morning. The way that meditating in the evening might be really useful to you is if you need to relax the brain because you've had a really difficult day, and that's your way of bringing about the parasympathetic nervous system and turning off the fight or flight system. Fight or flight is on all day long. Believe it or not, we consider a lot of things really threatening. Our boss is really threatening. Driving through traffic is really threatening. So there's lots of cortisol, norepinephrine being released through the bloodstream. If you want that to quiet down before you have a relaxing evening for dinner or before going to sleep at night, you might want to do a meditation at night before going to sleep. So with that said, I'm going to use the bowl to bring about a quicker state so that we can drop in faster. We can talk about other things that you can use later. In the meantime, we're going to do a focused attention first. Now, the breath. Do we need a bio break real quick?
No, I'm getting hellos.
Okay, all right. The breath is a great thing to focus on. It's really dependable. You don't need to think about breathing. It'll happen of its own accord. And you'll notice the quality of the breath. So I'm going to give you a few different ways to focus on the breath, and you can see whether or not these are effective for you, which one's most effective. So make yourself comfortable and relaxed. Put your feet and your hands in just the right position. And give yourself permission to let go. Often we need permission, especially moms. Moms are always so concerned with their children. And they're used to always having to be a caretaker. So give yourself permission to take time out from whatever duties, whatever obligations you have. And I invite you to focus on your breathing. Now, this is just your normal breathing. As you focus on your breath, so Corky, just so you know, it might be the bowl. If it's bringing my voice down, I won't use it. Sometimes Zoom gets a little complicated.
Okay, I'm gonna ask her again.
Yeah. Ask if my voice level was good before. This is tricky with Zoom, and I apologize, but we'll work out this kink and then we'll step into this. I may not use the bowl, actually. In fact, you know what? Let's just not use it, and then I will take that mystery out of the whole thing. I personally love the bowl, but focus on the breath. Notice the breath going in and out of the body. Now, there's something really interesting about the breath, which is often people don't breathe correctly. Now, if I were to give instruction for breathing correctly, I would say, you would breathe in and out through your nose and not your mouth. There's a lot of very interesting research that shows that breathing through the mouth is very unhealthy for the body. So you want to try to breathe in and out through the nose. And as you do so, I also would like you to notice the depth of your breath. Are you breathing shallowly, or are you breathing in fully and completely? Notice if you're breathing in from the beginning all the way to the end of your breath. And notice whether the breath is smooth or does it feel jagged. And as the breath comes in, what do you notice about the rate at which you're breathing? Are you breathing fast? Are you able to slow down and fully be with each breath? Now, I want to point out something right now. As you're focusing on your breath, your brain is going to think about other things. You cannot stop this. This is what the brain does. It thinks. And although it's important to try to quiet the thoughts of the brain, the thoughts of the brain have no intention of stopping. It would be like trying to get a dog or a cat to stop loving you. It just won't do that because you feed it, you're its friend. So treat the brain not as the dog or cat that won't obey. Treat it as the friend that loves you. And when it starts to have a thought that deviates from you focusing on your breath, treat it with love. Thank it for having thoughts. And bring your attention back to your breath. Now, something else about the breath. They say that your ability to breathe in fully and completely is synonymous with you and your willingness to accept the abundance of what life has to give you. So notice that there may be a relationship to the quality of your inhale, and that you can decide now that you are willing to be receptive, willing to be open to the beauty, magnificence, abundance of what all of life is here for you, to help you with your wellness and well-being. Breathe that in. Openness and willingness to accept the abundance of love, light, and healing that life has for you. And when you're ready, I'm going to invite you to pay attention to the exhale. Now notice the quality of the exhale. Do you feel like you go all the way to the end of the exhale? Are you fully letting go? Because they say that the quality of the exhale is similar to your ability to let go. What might you be holding on to that you would be willing to allow healing into your life by letting it go? And does the breath feel complete, smooth? Does it effortlessly leave your body, or are you trying to force it out? A good quality exhale is just like a letting go. You don't need to control it. You don't need to influence it. If you allow it, it will just effortlessly leave your body. This is the state of a healthy exhale. And this is the process of healthy breathing. Now, once you are moving through a complete breath, you'll notice a couple of other things. One is, at the end of the inhale, just before the exhale begins, there's virtually no time there. Somehow the body knows just how to move effortlessly from the inhale to the exhale. This is like a moment of peak performance. This is when the plants are flowering, opening their petals to the sun, receiving the sun's rays. This is the peak of the summer, and the sun is bright. And overhead in the sky. And as you follow the exhale to the end, you'll notice that in between the end of the exhale and the beginning of the inhale is a space. Some people call this the gap. Now, after you have settled into proper breathing, this is the beginning of your meditation. Now you are breathing correctly. And whatever meditation you choose from this point on is up to you. My recommendation would be to start here in focus and notice what it is like to breathe properly. From this point, something else you might notice is the body relaxed? Are you holding any tension anywhere? Sometimes we do this unconsciously. We hold tension in the shoulders, in the neck, sometimes in the belly. You'll want to pay attention to this and direct your exhale to that location, and then allow that tension to flow out with the exhale. Now your whole body becomes part of the meditation. From this point, there are a few directions we could go in. The first one is focusing on the gap. That's that space between the end of the exhale and the beginning of the inhale. There's a space there. It doesn't last for long. But as you exhale and reach the end of that exhale, you can drop into that space. I like to call this the void. It's the place where there's potential, there's energy. It's like the principle of the divine feminine that hasn't come into form. It's a place of probability and possibility. And it is not empty, but it appears as emptiness because it has not come into form. As you access this space, you'll realize that it's from this place that you create or manifest something. This is where you collect your energy because you are just getting ready to inhale. You pull from this void, from this possibility, and you take the energy that has not come into form and you utilize the inhale, bringing all of that potential energy into possibility and into form by the time you finish your inhale. And then, as all cycles do, they release. And so during that exhale, you're releasing that form and moving back into the void, back into potential energy. Now, this is a beautiful place in which we experience all of life, because all of life changes, and it changes through this exact procedure, this exact cycle of the void, the divine feminine, collecting all of its energy through the inhale, arising into form, which is the divine masculine, and then releasing that form back into the void, back into potential energy. And so in this way, we are embodying all of the cycles of nature, of which we are all a part. And each time you drop back into that void, you have just a moment to explore. And what you'll notice through this particular style of meditation is that you create an eagerness to get back to the void. Because it is only a fleeting moment that you can fully embody that void before it arises into form once again. And what you may notice that is from this place that we create. It is at that place that we're in peace and stillness. And it itself is just like the process of meditation, where we take that time out to be at peace before we move back out into the world. And if we looked at a 24-hour day, the amount of time that we might spend in meditation each day is just like that moment in the void. And the rest of the breath process is like how we move through the day. As we exhale, we go to sleep and we rest and rejuvenate. As we begin our inhale, we arise in the morning, go throughout our day, get to our peak level, wherever that is, before we let go back into that moment of meditation. That place at the end of the exhale, that void, has the essence of meditation built into it. So just check in with that. Allow it to be all of your being now. Now, this process is what I call the 5 states. There is the void, there is the inhale, there is the peak at the end of the inhale before the exhale begins, there's the exhale itself, and then there is the 5th part of the experience, which is observing the entire process. And this is being the witness to the entire experience. This is where we separate ourselves from the subjective and move into the objective self. Now, as you experience this fifth state, where you're the witness to the entire process, something may happen. You might feel yourself getting bigger, wider, or longer. You may feel the state of encompassing more of life around you, because you've moved out of just being you and moved into being us. Now, if you are experiencing what I'm talking about, be present with that, what that means to be us. You might notice people around you. You might notice your neighbors above you, below you, behind you, to the side of you, in front of you. You might be aware of a sound occurring somewhere. You're coming into a greater awareness of the environment and your connection to it. And you have a choice at this moment. You can choose to focus on separateness with that environment, or you can focus on inclusiveness with that environment. Notice what that would be like for you to test both. Am I a part of everything that's going on right now, or am I separate from everything that's going on right now? Remember your breath. Remember you're the observer of that entire process. And then notice what your connection is to everything around you. Now, when we do this, we've moved into the next type of meditation, which is what they often call observation or open monitoring. They even call it choiceless awareness, which is that suddenly you realize that you're now not as intently focused as much as you are inclusive to everything around you. Now, some people find this to be a much more adaptable meditation state for themselves. I would say if you are a woman or more connected to the feminine energy, this might be a state that feels more comfortable to be in inclusion, connected to everything around you. And this is where full body breathing comes in really handy. Rather than just focusing on the breath as it goes through the sinuses, imagine that you're breathing in and out through the entire body. It's a full body experience. You can breathe in through your hands. You can breathe in through your feet. You can breathe in through your legs. You can breathe in through your chest, through your belly. Or you can breathe into every part of the body simultaneously, almost like you're a sponge soaking in water, or like a vacuum pulling in air. And then as you release your breath, you release through the entire body. So just notice what that's like. And as we do this, you're going to have thoughts arising in the brain. You have to decide whether you're going to follow those thoughts to where they're leading you or not. Now, sometimes those thoughts are incredibly important. Sometimes when we're in this relaxed state, we have the solutions to problems. And so you may not want to turn off that thought. It might be important to you. You may have a realization. And if this occurs, I call this an epiphany. And you'll want to store that epiphany. I usually like to create a little ball of light and direct that ball of light to go into my heart center. If I have an epiphany of a problem that I've needed the answer to, that needs to be worked out, once I have felt the energy of that epiphany or the solution to that problem, I will create a little ball of light. And with my breath, on the inhale, I will store that into my heart center and then allow myself to go back to no thought. Now, there are different types of thoughts that people have that might take you out of your objective awareness. I call those the four pernicious evils. They are thinking itself, which can be very random thoughts about your grocery list, about an appointment that you have 2 weeks from now, about something that you said in a conversation during the day. Another pernicious evil is feeling. Now, feeling can be two things. It can be something in the body, an itch, a pain, a discomfort, and can also be an emotion. Something might arise that you're angry with so-and-so for doing such and such. You might be sad at something that happened recently. Another pernicious evil is memory, the past. When something historically comes into your awareness and distracts you from being present. And the fourth pernicious evil is fantasy. It is what is in the future and it hasn't happened yet. So a way to deal with these four pernicious evils that take you out of the moment and out of your meditation is to label them. Label them as thought, feeling, memory, fantasy. What happens when you give it that label, you collapse the structure of the thought in your mind that is taking you out of present moment. Labeling as thought, feeling, memory, fantasy. Collapses the thinking and the words and allows you to go back to awareness of your breath. although we're using this in the context of a meditation right now, you can use this anytime that you're going about the day trying to stay in mindfulness and presence. Because these are pretty much the 4 things that will take you out of a mindful state. So this labeling is a very useful tool to remember the words thought, feeling, memory, and fantasy, because these are the 4 things that will take you out of the moment. So in a moment, I'm going to invite you to come out of your meditative state. To do so, my recommendation is to connect in with your fingers and your toes, bring yourself fully back into your body with at least 1 big deep breath. You can take as many deep breaths as you need, but at least 1 deep breath and bring yourself back fully and completely to your body and open your eyes. Congratulations, we just did a half hour. So I want to give you all an opportunity to stand up and stretch. We're going to take a little break. Feel free to move around, get some water, stretch your body, and we'll meet back here at 8:15. We're going to talk about making the habit or practice of meditation, but is there any questions that anybody has, April?
Where does mantras fit into the practice?
I would say a couple of things. One is it's a type of focus meditation, so it's giving you something to focus on. It's also because a mantra, so for those that don't know what a mantra is, a mantra is any repeatable phrase that you would use vocally to focus your attention during meditation. It could be, I love hamburgers, and it could...
Your brain functioning, just to remember to say that to yourself or whatever, isn't it taking away from something else? Or if you're already taken time to get rid of the outside noise in a way, I don't know.
So a mantra helps you focus your attention, but it also contains vibration. Now, all of the body is actually vibrating all of the time. All of the internal organs are vibrating at different rates. The brain is vibrating and oscillating at different rates. Essentially, everything is moving all of the time. So when you are using your vocal cords, you are also utilizing vibration, but you are internalizing that vibration. There is an understanding that the tone, like I'm using, right now I'm talking at this particular tone. If I use that tone for a mantra, like saying Om Mani Padme Hum, my body most likely is using a tone that I feel comfortable with. I might choose a different tone that is less comfortable with, and it might be a tone that I am needing for my system to promote some healing. What they know about the voice is people have a tendency to speak around one central tone, even though they might go higher and they might go lower. They're speaking around one general tone that is their tone of comfort. It's their resonant tone, which is a reflection of the resonant frequency of their body. However, there are tones that we don't use. They might be outside of our vocal range, and they might be related to tones that we heard somebody use a lot that caused us distress in our lives. If we had a person that we lived with that always made us feel tense or afraid, and their vocal tone was around a particular pitch that we find uncomfortable, we would not want to move into an environment that had that particular pitch, or we might not use that pitch ourselves. But to bring more awareness to that pitch, we might actually create healing for ourselves. So a mantra can be used to focus the attention, and it can also be used, depending on what pitch you're using, to bring about a vibratory healed state for our body mind that we might otherwise be avoiding. Now, a lot of mantras utilize language, like I was just using Om Mani Padme Hum. The Sanskrit means the jewel in the head of the lotus. It's a reference to the crown chakra. When I utilize that particular mantra, what I get to do is utilize something that thousands and thousands of people have used for hundreds and hundreds of years. So by me utilizing that particular mantra, I'm actually tapping into a morphogenic field of peace, of serenity, of accessing and opening the crown chakra to receive more of the divine through my body mind, because thousands of people have reinforced that particular mantra to do the exact same thing. So the power inherent in that is already enabling me to access something greater than myself. So a mantra can be really powerful when you're using words that have already been established in the morphogenic field. And I should probably define what that is. Consciousness runs through all things, all humans. It's in this room. It's in the plants outside. Consciousness is everywhere. It is the animating force and principle of all of life. A morphogenic field is when you have a collection of consciousness that has created a thought form, and a truth has been reinforced into that thought form over and over by thousands of people, giving it a resonant field unto its own. It now becomes a form that I can tap into. And we have those in science, in religion, philosophy, anywhere that emotion has been used behind thoughts and words creates a strong enough thought form that will hold long enough, as long as it is reinforced by more humans using more emotion with those same thoughts. So Christianity is a morphogenic field. Buddhism is a morphogenic field. The biological sciences are a morphogenic field. Mathematics is a morphogenic field. Om Mani Padme Hum is a morphogenic field. They've been reinforced over and over with thoughts, elevated with emotion, and now they are being sustained by humanity.
We have a question.
Yes.
Brenda wants to know, or her comment is, when we utilize mantras in Sanskrit, isn't it very important that you properly pronounce the words?
That's a great question.
I would say that words have power when they're used with power. Words by themselves are meaningless. They're just words. They're just phonetics. It's when you have emotion behind them that we've given them power. So if you are mispronouncing something, if you have the right intention behind it, then it's powerful. I could use the correct pronunciation of anything, and if I don't have any emotion behind it, it has no power. Thoughts are the exact same way. If I don't have any emotional energy behind my emotion, behind my thought, then the thought is just a thought. But when I have fueled it with something, then the thought is meaningful. Jesus said that the power actually is in the thought. So what you are thinking is real. Thoughts have substance when they're backed by the fuel of emotion. So I hope that answers that question.
It says, thank you, I love that, I have always been told otherwise. That makes much more sense. Thank you, Brenda.
I'm going to give you a really quick way to drop into a mindful state. This is called 4 square breathing. It's a way to reset yourself immediately. And it's very, very simple. You don't even have to have your eyes closed. You just focus on the breath. You inhale to the count of 4, hold for the count of 4, exhale for the count of 4, hold for the count of 4. You can also do that to the count of 6 or 7. I was listening to a very interesting book called Breath. It's by James, his last name is escaping me at the moment.
The guy that does the meditations all over the place? Timmons or something like that?
No, I wish I could remember. I want to say Nyhurt, but that's not it. Just look up the word breath on Amazon under books. It's a very popular book. It's been a New York Times bestseller. In the book, though, he makes this very interesting observation about chance.
Oh, James, Nestor? Nestor?
Nestor, that's it.
Thank
Thank you. He makes this note about mantras, chants, and things that go to the count of 6 and then hold for the count of 6. So when you're saying Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum. There are tons of examples of this throughout the world, that this count to 6 during chants and in cycles of song, Gregorian chants, etc. There's something about that that's activating to the brain. They don't know exactly why. So you could do the 4 square breathing, or if you feel confident in your breathing, you could do a 6 square breathing, which is kind of nice. It's not really a square, technically, it's a hexagon. We'll call it 6 hexagonal breathing.
Except for it's like breathing in a space.
Oh, don't get
Breathing out
complicated,
in space.
Kathleen. So anyway, it's a really nice way to reset yourself because it happens fast enough that you have to pay attention to each part of the breath, and then the brain can't get distracted by something because it's happening quickly enough that you can recenter yourself. So you might consider that as something as a useful process. The other thing I wanted to talk about how to make a practice out of meditation. Now, they know that the easiest way to create a useful, healthful habit is to attach it to a previously existing habit, right? It's harder to say, okay, I'm going to meditate and I'm going to do it for 10 minutes every day. And okay, I'll do that. What's actually more powerful is I'm going to meditate right before or right after I brush my teeth. Now, breathing is something that you do every day. And if you attach it to brushing your teeth, which you most likely do every day, now you've got a unit. an easy way to attach your breath to previously existing habits. So you just say to yourself, okay, now, right after I brush my teeth, I'm going to go sit and just breathe for however long that's going to be. It could be a shower. Now, if you live in a location that isn't impacted by deprivation of water, a shower might even be a nice place to meditate. Here in California, not such a great place because we have water problems. However, what you can do is you can attach the state of mindfulness to your shower. So try this. Take your shower and practice being totally present with everything that you're doing without the four pernicious evils attacking you. Remember, it's thoughts, feelings, memories, and fantasies. See if you can stay totally present from the beginning to the end of your shower without going into some reverie. Be present with the soap, be present with the water, and practice doing your shower, practice mindfulness. So it's a great way to attach the habit of mindfulness to something you're already doing. Then, if you actually want to sit, try brushing your teeth, hanging up your toothbrush, and walking directly into wherever it is that you're going to have your meditation. And just sit and practice doing that. Now, here's an interesting way to practice this. Try doing it for 7 days straight, okay? Now, what you're doing is you're collapsing your goal, your intention down to something manageable. Only 7 days, that's it. Make that your goal, and then let it go for a week and don't meditate at all. And then do another week of Sunday through Saturday, meditating every single day, and then let it go for a week. What you're doing is you're not making the goal so big, like I'm going to meditate every day for the next 2 years. You're making it attainable. And then when you prove to yourself that you can do it, what it does is it tells the brain that you can achieve this. So it's positive reinforcement that you've given yourself only a small goal and you've attained that goal. Once you do that, the brain gets really happy because you just achieved something, as opposed to, I'm going to meditate every day for the next 2 months, which actually is really difficult. What studies have shown is that when you fail at the goal that you set for yourself, the brain has this way of going, I knew you couldn't do it. I knew you weren't good enough. I knew you were going to fail, right? And then you reinforce negative thinking. So by making it a small, manageable goal, you set yourself up for success. The other thing that this does is you'll have this week of having attained this goal, and then you get to experience the side effects. Remember all those benefits that we talked about from meditation? We get to experience all those benefits. And then we can see what it's like to have a week without meditation. And then we get to experience, here's who I am without meditation. Now you have a really powerful basis for comparison. Now you get to see who are you with meditation and who are you without meditation. Now what this does is prove to you quickly, just in a matter of 2 weeks, the benefits of meditation and why it's so important to do it. And what I would say is the great thing that arises out of that is you get to experience who you are without this great thing. It's like who you are without eating, right? I consider meditation to be as important as breathing. I know who I am without meditation, and it's not pretty, right? But I had to prove that to myself by going in and out of the experience to know who I am with meditation compared to who I am without meditation, and know that I like the person who meditates so much more than I like the person who doesn't meditate. And this is drawing a relationship to yourself that you might not otherwise have or experience. who you are actually. You will know yourself so much more than you otherwise would have known yourself because you've had the test. So I recommend trying that out. So again, attaching the meditation time to a previously existing habit. Now be creative. It could be a morning walk. It could be your tea. It could be your coffee, brushing your teeth, putting your clothes on, taking your shower. In the evening, it could be you do it before you have dinner, or you do it right after you have dinner. Now, let's talk about what it's like to meditate after eating compared to before eating. If you want your body to be totally free of distraction, it's better to meditate before you eat because the body now starts getting associated to digestion when you're meditating, and digestion can take your focus into one of the four pernicious evils, which is feeling. Suddenly the stomach is grumbling, you're feeling a little bit of digestive discomfort, and then you're having the body feeling. And remember, you can't ever escape the four pernicious evils. You can only take your attention away from them. But if the digestive system is really active, it's going to be continually capturing your attention. And what you want to do, if you can, if you're going to choose to sit, you want to stay away from things that are going to capture your attention. So if you have the opportunity, I would say meditating before a meal is probably better than meditating after a meal. The other thing you could do is you could meditate before you go to bed. Now, I want to talk about laying down in meditation. The body has years and years of association with laying down to sleeping. So if you are having a difficult time staying awake during meditation, it's better to sit up while you meditate because of that one particular feature. Now, not everybody's like that. Some people do like to lay down and meditate, and it works really well, and they don't fall asleep. It's a personal thing. I recommend experimenting with everything that I've shared with you and seeing what works for you, because there's not one way. Not one way works for everybody. So experiment with that. If you were to meditate while laying down, what you'll want to pay attention to is not falling asleep and not going into a dream state. However, there are times where going into that dream state could be really fun if you want to experiment with lucid dreaming. So some people in the hypnagogic state, that's that state where you're starting to go into REM sleep, which is the beginning stage of sleep, is where people dream. And so if you find yourself laying down and going into a dream state, you might want to experiment with trying to pull yourself out of the dream state by not giving yourself too much comfort while you're laying down. So something that, and you can do this actually for sitting up too. One of the things that people battle against with meditation is falling asleep. So if you are having an experience where you're constantly finding yourself nodding off, provide a little bit of discomfort for yourself. Don't make yourself too comfortable. Another thing that happens during meditation is people go into boredom. And that can be a challenging one.
Oh, I'm sorry, Brenda had a question too, so when you finish with your thought.
So boredom is nothing's happening. I want something to happen. I'm waiting for something to happen. Well, often meditation isn't about anything happening. It's actually being just present in the moment. And so if you're going into boredom, that's another thing that's distracting you from something else. And that other thing that it's distracting you from is just being present with what is happening right now. So you'll have to check in with yourself and find, are you being agitated? Are you being bored? Is something taking you out of mindfulness, or is something taking you out of just being with the breath and just being at peace? That boredom is starting to cause an agitation in you. So you'll have to pay attention to that. For some people, boredom is an issue. They find boredom in a lot of things. People that have ADD they actually get really bored as well. And if you have ADD, meditation can be a really, really challenging thing. And so you'll want to pay attention to the different styles of meditation to find one that actually works for you. And you have to really sit with and be present with boredom.
What are we needing to accomplish during this meditation? I mean,
being
is
at
it-
peace,
I'm sorry?
being at peace, being present with what is, being in acceptance with what is, being here, being now, not feeling like you have to do something, not feeling like you have to be somewhere, that you have to be someone. This is what we are conditioned to always do. We go to drugs, we go to drinking, we go to sex, we go to food, we go to talking to somebody on the phone because we are so uncomfortable with just being present in the moment. That's what we're learning to master. Those four pernicious evils, that's what we're learning to master.
Okay. So Brenda wants to, should you set a time or do you set until you feel that you are done?
Thank you, Brenda. There are different levels of achievement in meditation, and it depends on what you want to achieve. If you just want to relax and like use 4 square breathing, 10 minutes, 10-minute meditation, just to calm down. 20 minutes if it's at the end of the day, because it'll take you 10 minutes to calm down. And then 10 minutes just to sit and be in presence. If you do that in the morning, 10 minutes might be enough just to be in that state of conditioning the body mind to go into stillness and to be with now in stillness, in calm and inner peace. Going in and sitting in that stillness for a longer period of time produces different states. I would say that if you really want to experience what meditation is going to bring you into, you have to get across a threshold. And a lot of people aren't willing to do this, but you have to sit for a minimum of 40 minutes. Once you get over 40 minutes, you're going to cross over into a different level of brain state and awareness. If I were talking about the hemispheres and how they're oscillating constantly, our everyday waking awareness is in the state of beta. It's about 13 plus hertz, meaning the brain is oscillating at a fast rate. You're thinking, you're present with everything that's going on, you're paying attention to the TV, paying attention to somebody talking to you, driving your car. When you slow the brain state down, you move into alpha. This is where we're in creative thinking. We're in that creative phase where we're creating art. Everything is slowed down a little bit, and you're not tuned into what's going on outside. You're not paying attention to a conversation. You're reading or slowing the mind down so that you're painting or drawing or doing flower arrangement or crocheting or needlepoint, something that you're calm. It could be that you are problem solving. This is the state that programmers are usually in, where we're working through a problem of some sort. Then we go into theta. That's the lower brain state, much slower, where we're going into the dream state. This is where we're starting to go to sleep. If you can stay awake while you're doing that exact same brain state, you can have hypnagogic experiences, brain state awareness, dream state awareness while you're still in a waking state. You fully will move into that at 40 minutes of meditation. You will get into this really nice dreamlike state. And something that happens, and this is an indication that you've gone there, is suddenly it's almost like you're in a big room and everything is very still, and the brain is still working. It's still thinking, but you have no attachment to the thoughts. You're just sitting back and observing them, like you're observing a creek and the water flowing by and watching the leaves along the creek, and you have no attachment to it. Now, this is a place where sometimes people get bored and agitated because that's going to arise again. Suddenly you're like, wait, I want something to happen. But it's this very quiet moment. If you practice at being in that, if you move past the 40-minute mark into the 50 and 60-minute mark, and you really practice at that, you can activate enlightenment. Enlightenment is there's actually some different terms for it, but essentially you are unattached to what is going on in the world. You have no emotional involvement in it. You can observe it with it just being what it is. The Buddha would have called this non-attachment. You have no attachment to the outcome of things, meaning you might work toward a positive outcome towards something, but if you don't achieve it, it's not going to derail you. It's not going to take away from your well-being. The state, when it's practiced over and over and over, when you come to that state of non-attachment with what is occurring around you, another phase of that might be Samadhi, which is what they describe as the bliss state in the Hindu tradition. You might have this moment where, because you're at such a level of stillness and mastered being in that level of stillness, you have a Kundalini awakening, and a bit of that Kundalini rises up the spine, and it goes into the back of the brain stem and creates an experience of bliss. And even that is not the end of the story, because you actually want to not have attachment to that either. And you move past the bliss state into a higher level of awareness, a higher level of awakening, where you actually feel the oneness and connection to all things and yourself being in that simultaneously. And this is, I think, probably where we're all headed when we talk about fifth dimensional consciousness. What it is for us to ascend is all of us practicing at this, and all of humanity arising into this higher level of brain state awareness, where we get enough Kundalini rising up through the spine. Kundalini is what rests in the base of the spine. It's the life force energy. It arises enough into the brain state and the lower brain stem that we are suddenly aware of our collective oneness, and we ascend together in that. All of humanity is able to utilize that life force energy for something other than procreation, which is what we do right now. It's the Kundalini energy that initiates orgasm when we're having sex. That's something that we tend to get a little bit addicted to at times, where we need to have this feeling that there's life force moving through us. Now, there are other ways that people do it, jumping off of buildings or out of airplanes. People like to have that thrill because it raises our Kundalini. But what if we did that through meditation and learned how to control and manage that Kundalini, where we're not jumping out of airplanes, but we're just sitting in the present state of awareness through meditation, and then sharing that experience through whatever actions follow when we've achieved that level of management of that Kundalini energy. What would we do with it? What level of quantum awareness would we have with our brains that all of us start to move that Kundalini and awareness to bring about more growth of the brain? Remember, the brain started as a reptilian system of just homeostasis, just trying to stay alive. And then slowly over time, we developed the limbic part of the brain, which gave us the ability to have emotion. And we started to develop the ability to communicate with each other. Then we developed the neocortex, and we developed language and mathematics, and gave us logic and reason. what is the next level of our brain's development? That's going to happen because more Kundalini is rising through the spine. More people are feeding that into the morphogenic field, and then the morphogenic field starts to hold the imprint of more people using that level of energy in the brain to develop more brain awareness, or become less dependent on our verbalizing our language, and we actually are able to communicate telepathically, where we're actually able to heal parts of ourselves and each other by utilizing the energy that we are able to expound into the morphogenic field and into the environment around us. So there are things that we're headed toward, and that is where, when you are meditating for at least an hour each day, that you can develop higher states of awareness. So it doesn't need to be that big. It can start small. It can start with just decompressing, just bringing about a relaxed state of awareness at 10 minutes, 20 minutes, dropping into a deeper peace and being present with that peace. 30 minutes, going even deeper into that. 40 minutes, getting over the agitation that's going to arise because the body's going to be uncomfortable with sitting in the same place for that long. Getting to 50 minutes where you realize, oh, I hit a sweet spot. Oh, it's actually really nice right now. 60 minutes. Oh, okay, now I know why I'm doing this. So I hope that helps. Let's see if there's anything else that I really wanted to cover. I guess, there's something that we didn't talk about, which is, in Buddhism, they call it loving kindness. And this is another type of state that we can achieve for ourselves. There are a couple ways of doing it. There's something called Wu Wei. You might look it up online, but Wu Wei is, it's the process of finding something that's really pleasing to your senses and sitting in it and allowing it to bring joy out of you or up, have it arise in you. An example might be looking at a lake and seeing the reflection of the sunlight on the lake. It might be observing flowers. It could be listening to a particular piece of music. It's something that you find joyous. And what you do is your meditation is just sitting with that joyous thing and allowing unprovoked happiness to emerge in you. And what it's doing is it's actually opening the heart chakra. And as the heart chakra opens, and you're allowing that energy to flow in and through you into your field around your body mind, you experience what is actually, I believe, at the core of the creative force of the universe. It's love. And so unprovoked happiness, or Wu Wei, is just about sitting and being present with something that brings you joy. And allowing yourself to do that, because we're really funny creatures, and in a lot of ways we don't allow ourselves to just experience joy. There's always so many things that have to be done, and the world is in such a chaotic state. It would be so much better for me to just be with that chaos and try to solve all these problems. And that's the brain getting in the way. So when you recognize, oh, I'm going to give myself permission right now to just be with my heart center and just be with that thing that gives me joy and just allow it to move through me. And I love, my favorite really is the reflection of the sun on the water, because it's sparkling and shimmering. And I always imagine that the beauty of creation sits in that sparkling water and that reflection. And so a great place to do that is actually Vasona Park. Really nice little lake there. There are lots of reservoirs that you can go to in the middle of the day, and you just sit there and just be present with it. Sometimes it's just sitting in a backyard or sitting in a park and allowing yourself to really be present with The fact that creation is a miracle, there's a 1 in a quadrillion chance that this planet would have the right atmosphere to sustain all of life in the way that it does. And so if you can just be present with the fact that that's not a tree standing there, that's a miracle. This grass here, it's not grass, it's a miracle. When you be present with that, the heart center opens up, and then you experience this love, this beautiful fabric of creation that you're a part of. And that opens up the state of the life force that's running through all things. And when you're present with that, you're connected to all of life. And that in itself is a powerful meditation, because it's a state of being. And what happens is those 4 pernicious evils, they suddenly become really unimportant. Another thing that can provoke this is, I call it love actualizing, but it's just being thankful and in gratitude for something. Now, this isn't difficult to achieve, right? Just for this moment right now, just tune into the fact that you're going to go home and you have hot running water. Oh my God, that's really amazing. Think about this. We have existed on this planet for thousands of years without hot running water on tap. This is incredible. Be thankful if you have that, because there are a lot of places in the world where they don't have this. And I'm like, whoa, I love hot running water. I'm so blessed for having hot running water. A flushable toilet. This also is bordering on miraculous.
People call them small things, but there's nothing
They're
small about
huge.
it.
They're huge. There are people all over the planet that have to deal with body waste. They have to figure out how to bury it, how to cart it somewhere, how to store it until they can figure out where they're going to put it. And we get to just flush it down the toilet. Be present with this. This is really amazing to have this. The fact that we can store food in our freezer. If we think something's going to go bad soon and we want to eat it later, we can open up the freezer and put it in the freezer. This is such an amazing blessing, because we have tried so many ways to store food over the thousands of years that we have been harvesters. We've had to dry things out. We've had to salt things. We've had to figure out what we could eat and couldn't eat, and have to eat things quickly because it might spoil really fast. And now we don't have to do that. This is amazing. Be thankful and drop into that. Do you have 10 fingers that work, that you can pick things up, you can move and manipulate things at will? Connect in with that, because some people don't have that. Do you have 2 eyes? Even if you have to wear glasses because they don't focus really well, you can still see. This is a miracle. Be thankful for this. Do you have ears to hear things with? You can hear my voice right now. That's a miracle, and that's beautiful, and some people don't have that. Connect in with how important that is. So there are all these things that once you really drop into how you're thankful for those things, they're really heart opening. Your heart chakra just goes, oh, yes, these are miracles. These are beautiful things that I have access to. And bring that into your meditation. Bring that gratitude, and that's love actualizing. Another thing that you can do, which is a very healing process, is make a meditation out of finding people that you know in your life that you're having a struggle with being able to love. So the question might be like, would I love this person? Could I love this person? If I can, let's experience that love for them right now. And if I can, why not? What might be standing in the way of that? And see if you can answer that question. And then what you do is you represent this to yourself every day. Why is it I can't love this person? Come up with all the reasons and then let it go. Then the next day, would I love this person? Could I love this person? If the answer is no, why not? What's standing in the way? And keep chipping away at it day by day by day by day by day. And what you'll find is eventually you'll find that you cannot come up with a justifiable reason to not love the person any longer. And it may take days, it may take weeks, I don't know. What you realize over time is you're the one that's preventing yourself from receiving love. It's not them. They're not even there. This is your process. You realize that you're the one that's preventing this from happening. You're the one that is stopping yourself from being able to experience love. And eventually what you're going to ask yourself is, why am I stopping myself from being able to experience love? What is so important that I'm holding on to right now that I'm willing to not be able to experience how good love feels because I've got to hold this other thing for this person, this resentment or this hatred or this anger, whatever. And you realize I'm actually the person responsible for stopping myself from loving this person and experiencing love for myself. So that's a very, very powerful exercise that I recommend trying out. What happens is you realize that the life force that exists inside of yourself is being shrouded by all these, I can't love this person because of this, or I can't love that person because of that. And actually what you're doing is you're diffusing your own light. And so the process is actually going to strip away all those layers that's going to reveal more and more of the life force within you, more and more of the source of love within yourself. So that's a very, very powerful exercise. We're just about getting to 9 o'clock now. And are there any questions that you might have for me? Anybody online, anybody here in the audience? Is there anything I can answer for you that I haven't answered already?
Nobody's saying anything online.
Okay.
Anybody?
I think I pretty much covered everything.
And what are the four pernicious?
The four pernicious evils are
Thoughts.
thoughts, feelings, memories, and fantasies. Yeah.
I forgot about memory.
Yeah.
So Sean, don't you teach some things online that you can
I
let
do.
people know about?
Yeah. So some of the things that we covered tonight are in a course.
Oh, by the way, Lacey says thank you for a great class.
Oh, you're very welcome. Some of the things that I teach, that I taught tonight are in my course, where I use some very specific meditations to teach you the mechanics for contacting your spirit guides, your higher self. It's called Living a Sacred Life, and you can find it at livingasacredlife.com. I also have a book by the same title, which you can get off of Amazon. And I also have, if you're interested in healing principles and you are also interested in starting a business of some sort of your own, I have a mastermind called Building a Sacred Business, which you can find at buildingasacredbusiness.com. And that gives a pretty good breakdown of what this mastermind is about. I'm not going to go into it now, but if you're curious, read about it. I fuse astrology with the natural cycles of the planet and the moon and the seasons in with ceremony that helps us to embody the energy to project into our own business. And I do a lot of personal coaching and group coaching along with that. And it's a year-long process. You can start at any time and you become part of the Building a Sacred Business community. And you can find that at buildingasacredbusiness.com. Just create, if you want to find more information out about it, create an appointment online and we can talk more. And I'm trying to think if I have any, I don't have any events happening imminently, but at the end of this month will be my monthly evening of shamanic sound healing here at the Center for Creative Living. That's the last Thursday of the month. I do have a mailing list as well, which you can get on at both livingasacredlife.com and bluebearhealing.com. I'm also a practitioner. I do coaching, hypnotherapy, NLP, astrology, past life regression, energy healing of different sorts. And if you are in need of any of those practices, you can also contact me and create an appointment from bluebearhealing.com.
And Brenda says, thank you very much. Enjoyed this. Thank you for all the fabulous information. Truly powerful.
Thank you, Brenda. Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight.
Yeah.
I'm really honored that you spent time with me.
Yay! Woo!